He's the deal lawyer, and he's the certified coach. Find out what happens when these two professionals talk about universal questions and topics that require insightful answers. This week, the guys meet to talk about... This episode starts now.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning.
Yeah, we're here. Good morning for me as well. Good morning to everyone out there. I hope you're still warm this morning, but at least the sun is out, so that's good.
Yeah, I hope it's warmer here than it was in Chicago on January 29th.
Segue. Fancy that. I wonder what happened on that day.
January 29th. That's where we're going to start here right off the bat. PJ?
Yes, sir.
Is he lying?
Oh, boy. So, this is the popular question that you would do, right? You'd ask the behavioral scientists what they think of it. So if I go by just the video and the evidence that I have right now, I think you don't have to be a behavioral scientist to know something is sketchy with the details. And I would say what I watched from the Robin Roberts interview, I don't get where he's smiling at times if he's talking about how he got beat up and put in jail.
Now we're talking nonverbal. Okay.
And then I don't get the idea of him shifting a lot and some of his eyes darted away when she asked certain stressor type questions that we call stressor questions.
Yes.
So from that, I would say something's up.
Yeah.
And I don't know that I would buy everything that I've heard so far out of his mouth.
Yeah. So obviously there are some questions. So right off the bat, January 29th in Chicago, that was when that huge Arctic blast came through, and temperatures were far below zero. They were advising people not to open your mouth up because things might freeze or whatever. It was insanely cold.
Yeah.
On top of that, Jussie Smollett had been getting threatening letters prior to that date. He received a threatening letter with MAGA and all the other kind of stuff on there. So he was already heightened, like someone might be after me.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you do when you think someone's after you? Of course, at 2 a.m., you go by yourself to a Subway sandwich shop to get you a Subway sandwich, and you were a well-known star and everything, and it's cold as heck.
Mm-hmm.
So I think right off the bat, that is a little strange. Like, why would he not have somebody with him? I know he was allegedly on the phone with somebody, but for me, that is just a little bit of strange behavior. Now, there's nothing wrong with going to get you a Subway sandwich at 2 a.m. in the morning.
That's right.
But if people are sending me threatening messages and things like that, PJ, I might be a little nervous. I'm like, I better be careful when I get out, and especially if I'm going someplace late at night by myself, and I'm fearful. So that's one thing that's right off the bat that kind of just bothered me.
Yeah, there's too many red flags with it. It sounds like a story that's been rehearsed in some areas and not in other areas, which kind of gives it away. So I think if you look at the circumstantial evidence, you can put together a completely different story than what he told us. And still, then you ask the question, why? Why is this even an issue? Why would you start this? And of course, I like your background investigation about the coldest day, and then of course the threats that he'd been receiving, which then would take us to something else, something called confirmation bias. But I want to hear more of what you found out.
Well, so let's go back to January 29th. So he is walking and going to Subway, got him a sandwich. He walks out of the Subway, and then that's when he is attacked. He is attacked by, he's assaulted physically, bleach is poured on him, and a noose is tied around his neck.
So people walk around at 2 o'clock in the morning with bleach and a noose is almost the first thing.
Apparently in Chicago, and that, of course, that's a great area for making, which is not. I mean, but like, if you've been to downtown Chicago, wherever it's at, that's just doesn't seem like the right place for that to be happening and everything. But and I remember when it came out on, the next day when the news started carrying it and everything, I was just like, whoa, this is strange. And I'm all about protecting, victims and all that. And so I didn't say anything about it, but I was just like, this is a strange story.
Yes.
This is a strange story. So anyway, bleach is poured on him. He's on the phone apparently with a friend, and the friend can overhear all this going on. He then gets home. Now, apparently there's video showing him coming back into the his apartment or whatever with a noose still around his neck and his Subway sandwich in his hand. It took some time before he called the police. It might have been 45 minutes. It might have been a little longer than that. But there was a period of time where he did not call the police. And let me tell you something now. If I was attacked with a noose around my neck, with bleach being poured on me, I'm calling the police immediately.
Yeah.
It's like, and I'm not going to keep that damn noose on my neck. I'm going to take that off because, I mean, what? Oh my God. It's a horror. It's a terrible story. Can you just imagine that happened to someone? That's why it was so shocking to everybody. But it almost seemed like it's something that was written right out of a script,
like a bad B movie or something like this, right?
Yes.
Well, no, what's really disheartening about this for me is that people are going to look at this now, and anytime somebody cries that something happened and it was a hate crime, people automatically think, it's just a hoax and just trying to get attention. And so for the people who really are victims now, they've become an even bigger victim because of this story. Now, I'm willing to bet once all the evidence comes out, we see everything, it's going to be really bizarre. But I don't think too many people are going to believe that there was just, in Chicago, because that's a big MAGA part of the country, right? In Chicago.
Downtown or whatever. Where is it?
Where he was. I'm sure they were just down there waiting and just happened to get lucky to know that he was coming out there. So they could do all these things. I mean, just, I don't know. I don't know.
Well, so immediately after the news broke on this story, to people's credit, his friends, Nancy Pelosi, Kamala Harris, President Donald Trump, Taraji Henson. I could go on and on and on. Tons of people came out, rightly so, and was like, "Hey, this is my friend, this is my brother, this is wrong. This is wrong." Because they were doing it because they believed he was attacked. They believed him, and they went with the story. But of course, when they come out, I mean, then the media machine and everything else goes, and immediately, why do you think all that happened? Why do you think? What is the motive behind other people coming out? Of course, trying to. That's their friend. But do you think there's anything else going on with all that, or?
Well, I think so. I think that's a wonderful lead-in. So again, we talk about the phenomenon known as confirmation bias. So let's say you believe that there's a group, and that group's job is to put you down because of race, creed, color, and all these other things. Then all you have to hear is certain little details, and you'll go, knew it. That's them.
That "Make America Great Again" hat.
And then
okay,
all
that's
of a sudden,
great detail.
All these people now are going to start reading into the story.
A noose.
Because it gives you that confirmation of something that you already want to believe. And so you don't go further to find out what might contradict your beliefs. You just say, see, that's exactly what I'm talking about. And then you jump on it and you get a narrative going. And then now what we have is people going, wait a minute. We've actually got some real details going on. So now you have people tapping you on the brakes and doing it this way. So again, I think this is dangerous because this happens. This is the game that's played on both sides, right?
Yeah.
As soon as you hear something, you just, that confirms exactly what I want to believe. And so you jump on it. Now, because of media and everybody can have a camera turned on, like we have several cameras turned on here. Now what you don't now you get is, do you get opinion or do you get a real journalism that says, let's look at the facts before we insert confirmation bias?
So days later, February the 2nd, Jussie doubles down. So he makes a speech and he says, I have so many words on my heart that I want to say, but the most important thing I can say is thank you so much and that I'm okay. He tells the audience that he appreciates their support, but then later he starts making statements about, hey, why aren't you believing me? If the story were different, if it was someone else or whatever, why aren't you believing me? He doubles down. He kind of does it for several days thereafter. And so it's very interesting. I'm like, wow, this is amazing. Like he's saying, you should be believing me. Why aren't you believing me? And slowly but surely, you start hearing the trickling of information coming out that starts kind of telling you that, hey, this story may be a lot more complex than we have ever thought.
Yeah, I believe that. And I think for him, he may have thought, because again, look at his profession. Again, we're just reading into, maybe this is my confirmation bias against actors, But
Oh.
actors know when the camera's on them, and they instinctually know that they have to alter themselves. They can't be who they were when they walked in. They have to alter themselves to get into a character. It almost seems like some of the details that we get here are very caricaturous, if you will, or character driven, as if it was like a character in a movie. So to him, it's almost like, what? This is something that's guaranteed to get everybody shocked and angry and mad, but people are actually picking me apart. That's not quite what I expected. And so now he's almost trying to tell you, no, I'm going to use this platform to tell you, why aren't you believing this? This happens all the time, and this happens every day, and this
Right.
But then people are going, yeah, but we know that we're consuming media all the time, and we see that sometimes there are also hoax out there, so we have to look at that.
Yeah.
And then sometimes it's a real case, right? So welcome to the 2019 age of media, and you can film anything without context and put it out there.
So the police start contacting Jussie.
Yes.
And they're saying, hey, Jussie, can you hand over the phone records? Jussie does not hand over his phone records.
Yeah.
He says, I got a lot of private messages, and hey, listen, let me tell you something right now. I am not going to hand over my phone to just anybody either. But, you know, it's an investigation. We're trying to get down to the bottom of this and everything.
Yeah.
It takes a long time before Jussie hands over his phone.
Mm-hmm.
Then the police start releasing information saying, we think we might have 2 suspects. And on February 13th, they then describe who the suspects may be. It starts getting released by TMZ, all these other media outlets, and they are 2 Nigerian brothers.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently, the Nigerian brothers were picked up from the Chicago O'Hare Airport.
Mm-hmm.
They were coming back from Nigeria, and as soon as they landed, the police picked them up and took them into the station.
Mm-hmm.
In the station, the brothers didn't want to talk a whole lot, but apparently they started talking a whole lot. So, when you put people in these kind of situations and start interrogating everything, people talk. I don't know if anybody's familiar with Tekashi 69. I know that's but like everybody's talking about how much he kind of talked a whole lot out there but that's a whole nother thing. You got to tell the truth, right? Yeah. But in any event, what they start telling is a story that is quite remarkable. They say that Jussie paid them $4,000, agreed to pay $4,000. I think $3,500 up front, and then a $500 payment when they return back from Nigeria or whatever it may be. And that they rehearsed this whole plot, this scheme, this hoax, or whatever we want to call it. They said they planned it all out. They practiced it. And as a matter of fact, they went to the scene, the location, and rehearsed it all.
Just like you would with a movie.
Yes. And then what they did, the police said, okay, this is interesting. So apparently they called Jussie. They said, hello, Jussie. Hey, we've got 2 suspects in here. Do you want to press charges against these guys? And when they revealed who it was, Jussie said no. So these 2 brothers are apparently cast members on Empire.
Yeah, at least one of them's been on there for sure.
Yeah, at least one. And one of them he knows really well, who is his trainer as well.
Yeah.
And so I think that might have been the first step where he did something for sure right. And I don't, we're still kind of going through this here, but for him to say, no, I don't want to press charges against my friends and everything, I think that was noble.
Wow. Okay.
Okay. Yeah. But in any event, now just a firestorm is just all over the place. Everybody's like, what in the world is going on? Has Jussie pulled a fast one over us? And why would he do it? Why would Jussie do something like this?
See, that's why we study in psychology, why we study behaviors, because right when you think you can understand people, then they'll turn around and do something that you just didn't expect at all. So for me right now, looking at this, a lot of this doesn't make sense. And depending on the lens that you're going to look through. So if you look through a political lens, you're going, see, here's some more of the hoax stuff. If you look from a lens of social activism, you go, yeah, this is horrible. Stuff like this needs to be stamped out. But then if you look at a lens from, okay, let's just make sure before we do any kind of haranguing or hanging or anything of anyone.
Yes.
Can we just get the truth out there first? Because at the end of the day, everybody's going to respect the truth, right?
So PJ, from a coaching perspective,
yes.
If Jussie is lying, and by the way, he hired Garagos. He just hired him yesterday. Another great move who just, Garagos helped Kaepernick in his negotiations with the NFL and everything. So he hired a really good lawyer. Always good to hire a really good lawyer. I just want to put that out there. Good lawyer can help you out and advocate for you. But here's what's at stake. What's at stake is this. According to Illinois law, from what I understand, if you file a false police report, that could be a felony, and it could be subject to a 3-year term in the hokey. I mean, 3-year term in jail. 3 years. 3 years. So this has turned into a serious thing. Yes. And so he has made, I think that's a second good move on his part, hiring a good lawyer.
I would agree with that. I just feel like at this point, what's going to win this is going to be the narrative. So what's the narrative now? And he's twisted this up in so many different ways now that you don't know what you can believe and what you can't believe. Getting the great attorney was a great move for Colin Kaepernick. Just as a sidebar, is because Colin Kaepernick has a lot more on his side in terms of the NFL, in terms of collusion, and him talking about what might have gone on back and forth between them. Because all he has to do is show, look, if you go ahead and jack the computers, and show me what they've been saying back and forth, it'd be way too easy to prove. And that's why the NFL says, we don't need more bad press. Let's just go ahead and settle and get out. That's what I feel like has happened. I could be completely wrong. Certainly not the legal analyst here. But see, in that case, that makes sense. There's something that you could document, prove, you can look at for the whole way through. It's not just someone's telling you what they think's happening, and then we have weird camera angles and then all these other stories thrown in. So I think the narrative here is what's going to be the hardest thing for Jussie to prove, because the narrative is going all over these different places. And, people love a good narrative, and once they get one, they're just going to hang on to it, whether it's intentional or unintentional. So I think he's in a bad place with what he's trying
he is in a horrible place.
Yes.
I mean, really, literally, we need to be praying for Jussie because he is in a terrible, terrible place. I don't know who right now is talking to him. Obviously, he's talking to a lawyer, but he might need like a life coach. He might need a pastor or he's going to need a whole lot because there is a lot on the line now, because TMZ just released early this morning that they're already, according to TMZ, already cutting back his role on Empire.
Right.
That is terrible. That is terrible.
Well, I just go back to why. I mean, as behavioral scientists, we always want to know why and what was behind it, what's the context, and then we like to study what has happened and then see what we can find as gaps, and then consider some sort of benchmark. So here, the story is so convoluted.
Can I throw out a theory?
Ken, please.
Okay. All right. So, so some of the theories that are floating around, subject to verification or anything like that or whatever. One of the theories is that Jussie was believing that he was going to be written off Empire.
Okay.
Oh, and so I don't know if any of y'all watch Empire, but love Empire. And one of the first seasons when Jussie came out with that African little garb thing on and all that kind of stuff. I love that episode. They were singing and dancing and all that. Loved it. Over the years, it's been a little different, hit or miss, but I still enjoyed the show and everything. But somehow he thought, there was a rumor that he was going to be cut off the show. And so somehow what I understand, there's a theory out there, is that, first of all, he may have had someone write these letters that came to him that were threatening. Apparently, sources are saying that in the police, when they went into the Nigerian brother's apartment, they found magazines with cutouts and all that kind of stuff, as if suggesting maybe that they were the ones who sent the letter. Okay. And then when he released the letter, nobody was really believing him. He's like, wait a minute, why am I not getting the attention I deserve? I got a letter that were threatening me. They're talking about trying to harm me, and it's make America great again and blah, 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 blah. And nobody was buying into it the way he felt. And so then he said, hey, you know what? Let's double down and take it to the next notch. Now, this is what people are saying. You can read this and everything. And so then he puts on this act, allegedly, or whatever. Apparently, when the police when they walked with him over to the scene where it happened, I don't know if you heard this, but he's like, oh yeah, there's a camera right there. And they're like, that camera's pointing the other direction. But why would he know and think that there was a camera looking there or whatever? But with all that being said, if you heard that theory from a psychological coaching perspective and everything else, what does that tell you?
Well, if that's true, and my logical brain would say I want to see the actual letters coming from Fox, because I believe that's a Fox show. Where there you can show me where there were people who were saying they were going to write them out, because otherwise
Because they're denying that. So it's yes.
Okay, so I need to verify, is that true? What's true first? Now, in terms of just psychologically, I'm sitting here going, if he believes that's true, then he can create a narrative in his own head, and if he does that, there's something that might push it. We call that the imposter syndrome. Right? Because the imposter syndrome says that even though you're very well set up, very good executive at what you do, you still think for some reason that the shoe is going to fall on you. It's always this living in dread, even though you're very accomplished. Maya Angelou had it. She'd written 11 books. After all these books, you would think that she's most confident about it. She says, no, I'm still afraid that one day they're going to find out I'm just pulling a fraud on them. So imposter syndrome does hit people who are accomplished.
Yes.
So I wonder now, did he, out of imposter syndrome, create a narrative to go, oh no, fake or real, whether he was going to lose the job? He took it for real and then decided, okay, well then here's what I'm going to do to try to put attention to save my career. Because in some way, actors know if they stay in the news, that's better than being out of the news, right? Because if nobody's talking about you, that's not good. But if everybody's talking about you, then people go, hey, you know what? Now that I see that you're in the news, you actually be perfect for this other role over here. So
he achieved that goal. Achieved that goal. I'm going to tell you that right now. Bravo on that.
Yeah. So psychologically, that's what I'd have to wonder if I was sitting down talking to him. I had to try to figure out, is he suffering from some sort of imposter syndrome? Because he's accomplished as a singer and an actor.
Yeah.
But why would he think that he's not enough to stick around and to believe it? That's what I want to know from a psychological perspective. And then after that, is it just a confirmation bias now of, well, let me hook up with this one train, because if I hook up with anything political, it's guaranteed to get news. So then I'd want to see how many times he showed up in the news the last couple of days, because that would probably be the desired effect.
Oh, he is
trying to get attention. I definitely see this.
Oh my goodness! And it's everywhere. We're talking about it on YouTube. It's on the news, CBS, major. Everybody is talking about this. And so, if in fact part of the angle is to try to get attention and whatever, he got it. But I don't know if this is positive. I know it's not positive. This is horrible.
Yeah, it's bad publicity, but at the same time, you've heard the old saying, bad publicity is better than no publicity, because people are still talking. There's people that you could then find who will say, I just feel like you got a bad rap, I'll give you a chance. And so you see that in the NFL all the time. All these players who do some bad things, but they get a second chance on another team. And we keep going back to the same people, even though they may have done some bad things. We keep going back to them because at least they've.
Okay, PJ.
You know what I mean?
PJ. So
okay.
So if he is convicted, because right now they're talking about maybe a grand jury coming together. Mm-hmm. If he does not respond back and communicate with the police, because now they want to talk to him, and that's why he went to the next level on lawyering up. Mm-hmm. If they don't get a communication from him, then they're going to probably go to grand jury. Then they might charge him with something. And then if he were convicted of something like this, a false report, and it turns out all that and everything, do you think that he could still get a job in acting?
Well, I don't know that he would, but I know it would set up for the comeback tour, where I apologize for all my grievances and all the bad things I've done. I've learned my lesson and see what I can do now. There's always, when you crash and burn, there's always the Phoenix side that you can try to use, because some people will still buy it.
I'm not calling it a sucker. Okay. I'm very much a merciful kind of guy, and I believe in redemption and all those kind. You do as well.
Sure.
And so if he started to come clean on something like this now and say, listen, okay, I messed up. I lost my mind. I was scared. I made this up. It's horrible. I've hurt all these different people. I am so sorry that I did this, because the consequence of this,
yes,
the consequence, who is being hurt by this,
yes,
are true real life victims, as you mentioned before, the LGBTQ community, the Black community, anybody who suffers from racism or anything like that, they are being hurt by this. And it does sound like a cry for help, as Gertrude said over there. I see you over there. Thank you very much for that.
Yes. Well, and I agree with that. Again, I hate that. That's the calling fire in the movie theater. You can only cry wolf so many times before people won't believe you. But we have real issues here, and something like this just trivializes it and makes it seem like it's something that almost anybody can just pop up any moment, just turn on the camera and go, look what happened to me. It was a hate crime. And then you're going to get people so sarcastic and bitter about hate crimes themselves. And then we'll go into what's a hate crime, what isn't a hate crime. Then there'll be hate crime bias. And then we'll create all this stuff around it. And it's all hubbub. But really what we're trying to get back to is, bro, can you just tell us what really happened?
Yes.
And come clean. Just come clean. Tell us the truth. You may win some people back by just telling the truth. And let us see the vulnerability. Because he said in the interview, I'm not a weak person. I'm not a weak person. Yet everything that he's doing is not what somebody strong would do.
Yeah.
Right? Somebody strong would go, you know what? Let me get real, America. You know what? I had some bad days in a row. And I really was in a bad place. And it was out of that bad place that I acted out of. And so what I'm going to ask y'all to do now, America, is to forgive me for what I've done. And if America doesn't want to forgive you, then that's back on America. But at least he's come forward to try to say something.
Yeah, and so taking it home over here towards, like, if you're involved with a deal or a trend, like, I know this is sort of I want to go there. Okay. So if you are involved in a negotiation and at some point you realize, oh, I may have lied. I may not have told the truth here. Or you're trying now to negotiate with the police or whatever and try to figure out a way where you can kind of get a deal where you may not have to go to jail or whatever.
Yeah.
Sometimes when you have bad news or something bad has happened or whatever, I believe there is a time where you need to just come to Jesus and bring it and bring it to the people, bring it to whoever you're dealing with and everything, and put it on the table. At some point, you've got to put it on the table. And at some point, if you don't put it on the table in time enough or whatever, the consequences become even more severe.
Right, because at the end of the day, it comes back down to the why again. So, or I could ask priority-wise, what's more important? Is it more important for you to tell the truth, or is it more important for you to save the skin and promote a narrative because you want to believe it? And we know a lot of people do that. We call it confirmation bias. They'll believe whatever they want to believe because it confirms what they want to believe. And that's a hard place. That's usually driven by an ego and a low self-esteem at the same time.
Yes.
Right? And so you could win people over. If it's to tell the truth and win people back over, then I think you just got to be vulnerable and say, look, this is what was going on. Because who here hasn't had a bad day, a bad descent into some bad thinking and done some things maybe you might have regret it. Everybody's done it.
Absolutely.
So just come clean with it. Just say, hey, look, this is the case. Otherwise, to your point, I love that you said it. If I'm these other groups that are hurt constantly for real by this, that angers me, right? That you would do something like this and make the real people who are real victims have to sit back and now be treated as if, it's not that big of a deal. It's probably a hoax.
Yeah.
Right?
Well,
I heard Rosa Parks was in jail. Oh, maybe that's a hoax. I think that's maybe a hoax.
Okay.
Nobody would ever call that.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. So, hey, y'all. Hey, I want to thank everybody for joining us. And if you don't mind, this video will be playing. Please present your comments.
Yeah.
Please like, share, let your friends know what we're doing. We're here every Wednesday from 10 to 10:30, and so we really thank you. And you can find me on Instagram at Steve.Bolden, Bold Creations, and also YouTube at Bold Creations.
You can go to YouTube also, see me at PJ Dunn TV. You can also find me on LinkedIn, PJ Dunn under the name, and of course on Instagram, PJ Dunn as well, PJ Dunn CCP, and on Facebook as well. My Facebook homepage is on there as well. Just look up the name and we're there.
Hey, so thank you very much. Y'all enjoy the rest of your day, and I would just ask for prayers for Jussie.
Yeah, let's do that, and let's make sure that we look after each other.
Yeah,
and let's make it about the truth, really.
Yes,
because the truth actually will set you free.
Yes. All right. Hey, thank you very much. Y'all enjoy the rest of your day. All right. Bye-bye.
Have a great day, everyone.